transition to manager can be so exciting, but also really overwhelming. And as I'm sure you've probably figured out by now, not a soul sits you down to tell you exactly what you should be doing. And so you constantly find yourself kind of just looking over your shoulder to figure out if you're on the right track. And unfortunately, from what I've observed, there are a lot of new managers who are not actually on the right track. So in this video, I'm going to reveal 4 rookie mistakes that a lot of new managers make that just immediately sabotages their ability to try and earn the trust and respect of their team. I'm also going to share some practical guidance as well as examples to help you avoid these rookie mistakes and how to course correct if it turns out you've already made these mistakes. Which, from my experience of having worked with over 260 managers within the New Manager Accelerator program, is highly likely. But even if that's the case, that's okay. I got you. So without further ado, let's jump into these mistakes. And to make it fun, I'm going to just, shake things up a little bit. And I'm not going to reveal the mistakes to you right away. Instead, what I want you to do is see if you can spot the issue. Let's start off with Mediocre Mindy. And Mediocre Mindy is a brand new people manager who is super eager to prove herself in the role. So because she wants everything to be a success, she assigns a really important project to one of her team members. Let's call her Katrina. And Katrina is known for delivering really good work. But instead of just trusting Katrina, she inserts herself in the nitty-gritty of the project by dictating the exact tools and resources that Katrina must use. And she requires that Katrina seek her approval at every step, and she scrutinizes every draft edit, even for minor stylistic choices. Can you spot the issue? Yes, Mediocre Mindy is leading by telling. She is telling a capable team member exactly what she should do. Now, I want to ask you, if you were the team member Katrina, how would that make you feel? And how would that impact the project? Well, for one, it probably wouldn't make you feel very trusted, and it would have a negative impact on the project because of the fact that you have to stop every so often, which means it would slow things down. So clearly telling people what to do does not work. So maybe you're sitting there thinking to yourself, okay, but aren't I supposed to provide direction to my team member? I mean, Mac, you're the one that's always preaching on this channel that I need to be clear and set clear expectations. And so how am I supposed to do that if I don't tell my team member what to do? Well, I want you to know that there is a big difference between providing direction or clarity versus telling people what to do. And for this, what I want to do is use an example of life-changing Linda in terms of how she might approach the exact same scenario. So with life-changing Linda, for example, she would sit down with Katrina from the very beginning and discuss the project's overall goals and desired outcomes, thus starting from a place of collaboration, which sets the tone of ownership. Then she would clearly define what success looks like, maybe by sharing some clear KPIs or progress markers that would keep both her and Katrina really dialed in on the measures of progress, which then they would be able to make some adjustments and refinements to as necessary. Then she would scope out some clear boundaries such as deadlines, budget, and resources. Lastly, she would ask Katrina to share suggestions on how to achieve those goals within the boundaries or guardrails that she has articulated. Do you see the difference? You can provide direction and clarity without being one of those managers that is up in everybody's business. Listen, you want to be super flexible on the route, but explicit on the destination. Now, yes, I'm the first to admit that everyone on your team is going to need a different type of concoction from you, meaning you're going to have some team members that don't need a whole lot of guidance and you just give them the destination and they're good to go. And then you're going to have other team members who need a lot more guidance, meaning because of maybe their anxiety levels, their confidence, their skill level, they might need a lot more intricate details on the route than other people need. But then that's your job to figure that out. You need to figure out the different concoction that your team members need so that you can meet their needs and provide them the right amount of guidance and structure and direction that they need so that they can be successful. Now, that being said, it's not always about what you say. Sometimes it's about your delivery, which brings me to mistake number 2. So let's go back to Mediocre Mindy for our second mistake. And for this one, let's say that she is preparing her team for a busy holiday season. And so she calls a team meeting, and let's peer into how she would approach that team meeting.
All right, everyone, the holidays are coming and we're expecting a surge in calls. So what I've done is I've compiled a process document with all the updated policies, the return procedures, the troubleshooting steps, every single common customer service issue. And over the next week, my expectation is that everyone gets up to speed on what's outlined in it, because I expect over the next week, the calls are going to start pouring in and you're going to need to be prepared.
Can you spot the issue with Mindy's communication style here? Well, for one, she dumped a whole lot of information on them without a structured explanation, which can immediately be overwhelming. Number two, she just dictated expectations without inviting questions or a discussion in order to determine what they needed from that meeting. And then she offered no further follow-up. Nothing about that communication was tailored to her team's needs, meaning it wasn't effective. So now let's consider how life-changing Linda would approach the same meeting.
Hey team, so the holidays are almost here. And as you know, customer calls tend to increase during this time period. So what I wanted to do today was set aside some time just to talk through some preparations and just make sure that everyone's feeling confident for the upcoming inevitable rush that we're going to have. So to kick things off, what questions do you guys have about the upcoming holiday season? Are there any maybe specific policies or procedures that you would like clarification on before we dive into some of the details here? All right, y'all. So we did it. That was a lot of information. And seeing as though it was a lot of information, what I'm going to do is send out to everybody like the detailed process document that we went over today. That way you can review it at your own pace and make some notes. And then what I'll do is over the next maybe few days during our one-on-one, I'll add in some extra time or some bumper time so that we can go deeper on any specific questions that you might have as it pertains to this. How does that sound?
Listen, communication should never be seen as one of those checkbox items where it's like, I just deliver you some information and bounce, right? We want to strive to be more like life-changing Linda. Because what did she do in that scenario? Well, she tailored her approach and delivery to the needs of her team. She asked questions, she prioritized information before speaking, and she ensured that her team members were actually grasping her points. Now, caring enough to adapt your communication style to meet the needs of your team is a great thing, but not if you take it too far, or at least if you pay attention to the wrong details, which brings me to mistake number 3. And for that one, I'm gonna let mediocre Mindy take over. So here's the scenario. Mindy's sitting at her desk working on, some sort of important process, and her team member, let's call her Marcia, runs in the door and says to her, "Hey Mindy, I just overheard Rico on a really heated phone call. I heard him say something about impossible deadlines and unrealistic expectations. I don't know, I think he's pretty upset." Now Mindy immediately starts to get upset because she remembers that a couple of weeks ago, she had a one-on-one with Rico where she had given him some projects and he kind of pushed back, said, some of this feels a little tight and hard. And so she's like, whatever heated phone call that he was having must have been about this thing that I talked to him about a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to go to him, I'm going to confront him and tell him that it is unacceptable for him to be behaving like this and that he needs to get on board with the direction that he's been given. Can you spot the issue? Mindy allowed herself to get sucked into the drama and assumptions rather than relying on the facts. As people managers, y'all, we are going to be presented with all sorts of things all day long. Hearsay, confrontation between team members, people saying all sorts of things about one another. The list goes on, right? This is going to happen to you time and time again throughout your career as a manager. But you cannot allow yourself to lose your calm, get sucked into the drama, and as a result, lose your focus and objectivity. Now, I'm not saying that you can't be human. All I'm saying is that if you know that you're the type of person that can sometimes allow your emotions to enter into the space before, objectivity does, then I want you to take a step back in these situations and really just strip it down to the facts, right? Take out assumptions, take out opinions, and simply deal with the facts. And listen, sometimes the escalated step that you need to take is warranted based on the circumstance. All I'm saying is I want you to make sure that it's coming from a factual place instead of an emotional place. And so if factually speaking, maybe you have a team member who you feel like needs to be released from the team, then I want you to know that I have a 2-part series on the channel on termination. And so I will link it in the description box below for you, as well as on the screen right here for you, somewhere around here. Now, before you go on saying, "Oh, Mac, I'm way too empathetic in my approach to even be in that arena," then I want you to know that that does not exclude you from making some mistakes too. And here's how. Let's go back to mediocre Mindy for a second, and we're actually going to take her in a different direction. Let's say in this scenario that mediocre Mindy has a team member whose name is Jade, and Jade has been underperforming. For Jade, her underperformance looks like her Her quality of work is slipping. She's missing deadlines and she's not participating as she used to. Mediocre Mindy recognizes this, right? She sees this, but she's also aware of the fact that Jade is caring for a sick family member at home. And so because of that, she doesn't want to bring up the underperformance to her because she fears that it would be coming off as insensitive given the fact that Jade is going through so much at home. So instead of saying anything, she just kind of hopes that eventually Jade will recognize and turn things around. Can you spot the problem here? Well, in this case, mediocre Mindy is allowing her empathy and compassion to lower her standards. Your standards are your standards, and when you lower your standards, you cause a lot of problems for the people that are currently performing. Now, yes, we are dealing with human beings who are carrying real life stuff all the time. And personally for me, I wish that more managers would acknowledge that fact. And so if you recognized yourself in this, like if you carry a lot of compassion and empathy for the things that people are going through, then I want you to know, good on you. That's a really good quality that you have as a manager. I love that. And at the same time, you have a job to do, meaning you have to deliver results. So you have to balance your empathy with the achievement of results. So what you have to remember as a manager is that you can have flexibility, you can have compassion and empathy for the situation, but not for the actions. So let me give you an example of how you can do this by using life-changing Linda as an example, right? How would she handle this situation? Well, first, she would set up a private one-on-one with Jade where she can have a nice blend of empathy and professionalism. So she might start off that conversation by surfacing what she's observed while also providing support during this one-on-one. And here's how that might sound.
Listen, Jade, I know you're going through it right now, and one of the last things I want to do is talk to you about your performance, but I feel like I would be doing you a huge disservice if I didn't mention that things are starting to fall behind schedule and not being done at your normal pace. What I want to do today during our one-on-one is just spend a little bit of time, both of us working on a plan to get you back on track. I want to pose a question to you. What areas do you think you need the most attention in?
You can acknowledge the challenges that your team members are going through and provide them with support while also holding them accountable to the results, just like life-changing Linda. Now, this is not easy to do, and you will not get it right 100% of the time. I mean, I still struggle with this myself. But as long as you strive to hold that balance and you strive to hold that line, you will get it right more than you get it wrong. I'm sure at this point of the video, you're probably struggling maybe to absorb everything that I just discussed because maybe you're pretty busy trying to figure out if you've made some of these mistakes that I've mentioned within this video. So if that's true and that's you and you are trying to figure that out, then I want you to breathe. Take a hot second and breathe, because I'm pretty certain you probably have made one of these mistakes because so many people have. I've made them too. But the good news is you're going to be okay. I know that for a certainty, and I have some proof for you. So I had a student by the name of Isabel who joined the accelerator program at a time that was really tense on her team. She had just made the shift from peer to manager. And as some of you know, this is always a really tricky dynamic and situation. And she had made the mistake of not necessarily handling that transition the best way possible because, I mean, she just didn't know what she didn't know. And she thought that the best way to release some of that tension was by plastering on the nice, right? Trying to be kind to her team members who were her former peers, but it didn't make it better. It only made it worse. And so she decided, of course, to join the accelerator program and get the support that she needed. And within a month, she sent this Slack message within our private community channel. The truth is, you will never stop making mistakes. I mean, that is the name of the game when it comes to being human and definitely when it comes to being a manager. But the aim should be to get quicker with your course correction. How do you do that? Well, with your mindset, with your skills, and with practice. You can up-level in those areas if you have a strong coach or mentor behind you. And it doesn't have to be me. It just needs to be someone that you trust. And if you do want my help, then the best place for you to start is with my free training, where I break down for you my 5-part pillar Elevate Team Performance framework, which is the roadmap to becoming an effective leader with a high-performance team. So if you want to get signed up for free, just use the link in the description box below or go to makitaandrews.com/training. No matter where you're at, it is not too late for you to course correct. In fact, in my free training that I just referenced, I shared a ton of stories of NMA students who started off really rocky in their management role, who turned out to have amazing experiences, right? Some of them got promotions, some of them got raises and bonuses and all these things because they followed the framework. So please go check it out. It is an awesome training, if I can say so myself. And it's only 42 minutes long. And so it's not going to take that much time for you to get the roadmap that you need so that you can stop making some of these mistakes and really start making some impact in your role.